everyone, welcome back to my channel. To understand why Taiwan is at the centre of US-China tensions, we need to go back in history. In the early 1900s, China was a very weak country. It was divided by warlords, and later it faced a long civil war between two main groups. 1. The communists led by Mao Zedong. 2. The nationalists Kuomintang or KMT led by Chiang Kai-shek. These two groups fought each other for control of China. After many years of fighting, in 1949, the communists won the war. They took over the mainland of China and created the People's Republic of China, PRC, in Beijing. But the nationalists did not disappear. They escaped with their soldiers, leaders and families to the island of Taiwan, which is about 100 miles off the coast of China. On this island, they set up their own government and called it the Republic of China, ROC. Here is where the problem started. The communists in Beijing said, "We are the real China, and Taiwan is just a part of us that we will take back someday." The nationalists in Taiwan said, "No, we are the real China, and one day we will take back the mainland." For many years, both sides claimed to be the true China. At the same time, the world was confused too. The United Nations at first recognised the government in Taiwan as the real China. But in 1971, the UN gave China's official seat to Beijing. From then on, most countries around the world started recognising the People's Republic of China instead of Taiwan. Still, Taiwan continued to survive and grow on its own. But Beijing never forgot its goal to reunite Taiwan with mainland China. So the historical root of the Taiwan issue comes from the Chinese Civil War in 1949. From that moment, there were two governments both calling themselves China, and this created a problem that has not been solved until today. After the Chinese Civil War ended in 1949, the world entered a period called the Cold War. This was not a direct war, but a big political and military competition between two sides. 1. The United States and its allies who supported democracy and capitalism. 2. The Soviet Union and communist countries, which included China after 1949. During this time, the US looked at Taiwan as a very important partner because Taiwan was against communism. US support for Taiwan in the early years. In the 1950s, the United States signed a mutual defense treaty with Taiwan. This treaty was like a promise. If China attacked Taiwan, the US would come to help. America also gave Taiwan weapons and economic support so it could defend itself. At the same time, the US Navy protected the sea area between Taiwan and mainland China, making sure the communists could not cross over easily. For many years, America treated Taiwan as the real China in world politics. In fact, the United Nations seat for China was held by Taiwan's government, not Beijing's. The big change in the 1970s. But in the 1970s, things started to change. The US wanted to improve relations with mainland China because China was becoming more powerful and important in Asia. President Richard Nixon visited Beijing in 1972, which was a historic moment. Later, in 1979, President Jimmy Carter made a big decision. The US officially recognized Beijing, the People's Republic of China, as the only legal government of China. This meant the US stopped official recognition of Taiwan as a separate country. This was a huge blow for Taiwan because it lost its official diplomatic relationship with the US. The Taiwan Relations Act 1979, but America did not want to completely abandon Taiwan. So the US Congress created a law called the Taiwan Relations Act in 1979. This act said the US will keep unofficial relations with Taiwan. The US will sell weapons to Taiwan so it can defend itself. The US will see any attempt by Beijing to take Taiwan by force as a serious threat to peace. This law became the backbone of US-Taiwan relations, even though America stopped officially recognizing Taiwan as a country. It still promised to help Taiwan survive and defend itself. Why this matters? So during the Cold War, Taiwan became very important to the US because it was a strong ally against communism, and for China, Taiwan became even more important because Beijing felt the US was standing in the way of reunification. This period created a triangle of tension between the US, China, and Taiwan. The US wanted to have good relations with both sides, but it also wanted to prevent war. This balancing act continues until today. After the 1970s, Taiwan started to change in many big ways. These changes made Taiwan more different from mainland China and gave it a stronger sense of its own identity, from dictatorship to democracy. When the nationalists, Kuomintang or KMT, first came to Taiwan in 1949, they ruled the island in a strict and authoritarian way. People could not freely criticise the government. There was a long period called the White Terror, when anyone suspected of opposing the government could be arrested. But over time, things began to change. In the 1980s, Taiwan's leaders slowly opened up society. They allowed more political freedoms, new parties, and free speech. Finally, in 1996, Taiwan held its first direct presidential election. From that point on, Taiwan became a real democracy where people could vote and choose their leaders. This was a very important moment because Taiwan became one of the first democracies in Asia. While mainland China remained under one-party communist rule, Taiwan moved in the opposite direction, towards freedom and democracy. Economic success at the same time, Taiwan's economy grew very fast. In the 1960s and 1970s, Taiwan was still poor, but the government pushed for industrialization and education. By the 1980s and 1990s, Taiwan had become a high-tech economy. Taiwan became famous for producing electronics, machines, and especially semiconductors, computer chips. A company called TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, later became the world's most important producer of advanced chips. These chips are used in phones, computers, cars, and even military technology. This economic success made Taiwan rich and important to the global economy. A new Taiwanese identity. As Taiwan became more democratic and more successful, the people on the island began to see themselves differently. In the past, many people still thought of themselves as Chinese, waiting for the day they could take back the mainland. But younger generations, born and raised in Taiwan, started to feel Taiwanese first and Chinese second, or sometimes not Chinese at all. They saw Taiwan as their home, their country, and their future. Polls today show that most people in Taiwan want to keep things the way they are, not declaring full independence, but also not joining mainland China. They value their freedom, democracy, and separate way of life. Why this matters? This transformation created a big problem for China. Beijing's government always said Taiwan is part of China and will be reunited one day. But Taiwan's people were moving in the opposite direction, building a society that was more democratic, freer, richer, and more different from China. For Beijing, this was not only a political problem, but also an ideological one. If Chinese people in Taiwan could enjoy democracy, why couldn't people in mainland China demand the same? In short, Taiwan transformed from an authoritarian state into a successful democracy with a strong economy and a unique Taiwanese identity. These changes made Taiwan more different from mainland China and deepened the tensions. Taiwan is not just a small island with people living on it. It is one of the most important places in the world for both political and economic reasons. That is why the US and China both care so much about it. 1. Taiwan's location, a key spot in Asia. Taiwan sits in the western Pacific Ocean, about 100 miles off the coast of China. If you look at a map, you will see Taiwan is part of what is called the first island chain. This island chain is like a long line of islands stretching from Japan in the north, down through Taiwan, the Philippines, and all the way to Southeast Asia. For the United States and its allies, controlling this chain means keeping China's navy inside and stopping it from spreading too far. For China, breaking through this chain means becoming a true global military power. So Taiwan is like a door. If China controls Taiwan, it can open the door to the Pacific Ocean. If the US keeps Taiwan free, it helps block China's military expansion. 2. Taiwan's economy. A technology powerhouse, Taiwan may look small on the map, but it is very big in the world economy. The reason is one word: semiconductors. Semiconductors, also called computer chips, are the brains of modern technology. They are inside your smartphone, laptop, car, airplane, and even in advanced weapons. Taiwan produces around 60% of all the world's semiconductors. Even more importantly, Taiwan produces over 90% of the most advanced chips, which no other country can easily make at the same scale. The most famous company is TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. This company is the heart of the global supply chain. If TSMC stops making chips, the world's technology industry would face a disaster. This is why Taiwan is often called the Silicon Shield. Its chip industry protects it because the world, including both the US and China, depends on Taiwan's technology. 3. Why Taiwan matters to China. For China, Taiwan is more than just an island. It is a matter of national pride. Beijing says Taiwan is part of its territory, and taking it back is a symbol of finishing the mission of reunifying China. It is a matter of security. If the US and its allies control Taiwan, China feels surrounded. It is a matter of technology and power. China wants to dominate in semiconductors, but right now it still depends on Taiwan's advanced chips. So, for Beijing, Taiwan is both emotional, a national dream, and practical, a military and economic prize. 4. Why Taiwan matters to the US. For the United States, Taiwan is also extremely important. It is a democracy in Asia. Protecting Taiwan shows that America supports freedom and democratic allies. It is part of the global supply chain. Without Taiwan's chips, American industries, from iPhones to fighter jets, would suffer. It is part of regional security. If China controls Taiwan, it could push US forces out of Asia and threaten US allies like Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. In short, Taiwan is like a key player in the balance of power between the US and China. 5. Why the world cares. The importance of Taiwan goes beyond the US and China. Japan, South Korea, and many European countries depend on Taiwan's chips for their industries. If a war happens in Taiwan, global trade routes in the Pacific could be blocked. That would hurt the world economy. Many countries also see Taiwan as a test. If China can take Taiwan by force, it could encourage more aggressive actions in other parts of the world. So Taiwan is not just a local issue between China and Taiwan. It is a global issue because Taiwan is important for security, technology, trade, and the balance of power in Asia and the world. In the 21st century, Taiwan has become the center of serious tensions between the United States and China. The reasons are many: politics, economy, military power, and national pride. and each year the situation becomes more intense. 1. China's stronger position. Over the last 20 years, China has become richer, stronger, and more powerful. Its economy grew fast, and it used that money to build a modern military with advanced fighter jets, warships, and missiles. China also became more confident about its global role. Chinese leaders started saying openly that Taiwan must return to China, and they refused to rule out the use of force. For them, reunification is part of the Chinese dream of national greatness. Beijing has also increased military pressure. Chinese fighter jets and bombers now fly close to Taiwan's airspace almost every day. China holds big naval exercises around the island, showing it could blockade or attack Taiwan if it wanted. China also uses cyber attacks and disinformation to try to weaken Taiwan from the inside. 2. Taiwan's democracy and growing confidence. At the same time, Taiwan has grown more confident in its democracy. The people of Taiwan freely elect their leaders, and many younger generations see themselves as Taiwanese, not Chinese. In recent elections, parties that support keeping distance from Beijing have gained strong support. This shows that Taiwan's people want to protect their freedom, democracy, and way of life. But this makes China angry, because it sees these moves as steps toward independence. For Beijing, Taiwan must never declare itself an independent country, or else China says it will attack. 3. The role of the United States. The United States also plays a huge role in the rising tensions. America has continued to sell modern weapons to Taiwan, including missiles, jets, and defense systems, send warships through the Taiwan Strait to show that the sea is international waters, not China's territory. Pass new laws to strengthen ties with Taiwan. One very big event happened in 2022 when US Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. This was the highest level American visit in 25 years. China became very angry and answered with the largest military drills ever around Taiwan, almost like a rehearsal for an invasion. For the US, supporting Taiwan means protecting democracy and keeping Asia stable. For China, US support is seen as interference in its internal affairs. 4. The global importance of Taiwan in the 21st century. The world today is highly connected, and Taiwan is at the centre of it. Technology. Taiwan's chip industry is more important than ever. Phones, computers, cars, and even AI need Taiwan's semiconductors. Security. If a war breaks out over Taiwan, it could draw in the US, Japan, and other countries, leading to a massive conflict in Asia. Economy. A war or blockade in Taiwan would block shipping lanes in the Pacific, shaking the global economy. This is why many countries watch Taiwan closely. What happens there could affect the whole world. 5. A flashpoint of rivalry. In short, Taiwan has become the flashpoint, the hottest spot in US-China relations. It represents more than just an island. For China, it is about pride, sovereignty, and completing its national mission. For Taiwan, it is about freedom, democracy, and survival as a separate society. For the United States, it is about protecting democracy, technology, and its power in Asia. Because of all this, Taiwan is now seen as the place where the US and China could one day clash directly. It is a symbol of a bigger struggle between authoritarianism and democracy, and between a rising power, China, and a superpower, the US. Final thought, the 21st century has made Taiwan the centre of global attention. Every year the tension grows higher. The world hopes it can be solved peacefully, but the risk of conflict is always present. Summary: Taiwan became the center of US-China tensions because of its historical roots in the Chinese Civil War, the Cold War Balancing Act, its democratic transformation, its strategic and economic value, and the increasing military and political rivalry between Washington and Beijing.